Hello everybody and welcome to the War Room. This one is for the Bellator 258 co-main event. I've just checked to make sure I'm getting the right number here. Let me just double check that. It's got to be 258. There we go. May 7th, Friday, May 7th. So this is the co-main event. I do aim to do a main event breakdown. Juan Archuleta against Sergio Pettis is absolute fire, but I am fascinated with this light heavyweight tournament at the moment. So this is the final quarterfinal round of the Bellator Light Heavyweight World Grand Prix. Just a quick catch up on where we are at the moment. The champion of the light heavyweight division, Vadim Nemkov, beat Phil Davis by unanimous decision, so he's progressed through. So the winner of Rumble Johnson against Romero will face Vadim Nemkov in the next round. Ryan Bader decisively beat Lyoto Machida over 5 rounds for unanimous decision, and Corey Anderson beat Yagchimaradov in the 3rd round by TKO. So the semi-final on the other side of the bracket is Ryan Bader against Corey Anderson. The reason this is so interesting is because Corey Anderson is new to the division, and you know, he's very good. He's a high-level light heavyweight, you know, world-class level. Ryan Bader had Machida in the 1st round, who had already beaten him. He's recently lost his belt to Nemkov, and he's also lost to Rumble Johnson, but he does have a win over Phil Davis. Yoel Romero is moving up to light heavyweight and facing Rumble Johnson. They're both making their Bellator debut. So I find this one really interesting, not only because it's, you know, Rumble Johnson's last fight was 2017, but also because I thought he was done. I thought he'd had enough. You know, I thought he was off, you know, working on his other projects and stuff, and all of a sudden he's back in the mix. He's, you know, there's rumors of him wanting to train. There's rumblings of him wanting to fight. He's back training. He looks in great shape, and then all of a sudden he's in this tournament. And I know everybody in this tournament, as soon as they saw Rumble Johnson, they were like, "Oh, that's a rough night for everybody." Trust me, it is. I think I was the first person to go to a decision with Rumble Johnson back in the day. He's a hulk of an individual, and his punching power is ridiculous. Yoel Romero moving up a weight class, I think, is exciting because he'd missed weight a couple of times in the last few years. You know, he'd been obviously, you know, he had a title shot. I think that was you know, that was the title was taken off the line because he weighed over. So, you know, weight is something that's maybe been haunting him for a while. He is in his 40s now. I think Yoel Romero moving up is going to be far more exciting than the end of his career at middleweight. I will say that. I also think Vadim Nemkov being the champion is a fascinating person for these two guys to be meeting, because, say, for example, Rumble Johnson beats Romero and then goes through and beats Vadim Nemkov. He's on the other side of the bracket in the final waiting for the winner of Bader, Corey Anderson. And, you know, I like these formats because the guys know what direction they're going. They know who the next stages are, and it links 4 fights together with 8 of the highest level light heavyweights in the division. Okay, what do I need to talk about with this one? So Romero is 13-5 with 11 KOs and TKOs. Rumble is 22-6 with 16 knockouts, 12 of those in the 1st round. He's only got 1 TKO on his record, and that was due to eye pokes. I mean, that's what it's listed at on Wikipedia, at least. That was against Kevin Burns, who he rematched and knocked out pretty viciously. He tried to get it overturned, but it was refused by the Athletic Commission. He has been subbed 5 times, Rumble Johnson. It does seem to be his kryptonite. Fatigue and rear naked chokes seem to be his kryptonite. But then on the flip side, although Romero is known as a Olympic level wrestler, his takedown accuracy is 30%, and he's never submitted anybody on his record. So the danger from both of these guys really is the fact that they've got thunderous hands. I don't think we're going to see Yoel Romero try and wrestle with Rumble Johnson, because even though he's probably technically a better wrestler, Rumble Johnson's a specimen of an individual, just as Yoel Romero is. That might be just a waste of energy. They might find themselves nullifying each other out, and then it's a case of which one's in better shape. And although Rumble has gotten tired in the past, you know, he has also fought into later rounds and maintained his conditioning to an extent. Yoel Romero does fight at a slow, steady pace. So we might see Rumble be able to push him around a little bit. Romero's never been subbed, as you can imagine. He's only been stopped once, and that was way back in it was in the Strikeforce days, Cavalcanti, back in 2011. That was. So it's been 10 years since Romero's been stopped. That doesn't mean he can't be stopped by Rumble Johnson though, because as we know, his punching power is ridiculous. So yeah. This just feels like a superhero fight to me. Rumble's been out for a long while, but he looks in amazing shape. Yoel Romero is just a unique individual anyway. I know he's on a 3-fight losing streak, but you look at the 3 guys that he lost to. I mean, it's Adesanya, Costa, and Whittaker, and the fight before that, albeit he did miss weight. The fight before that was Luke Rockhold, and it doesn't matter who you are. That punch knocks you out. That punch puts anybody to sleep. And Rumble's the same thing. We've got two superheroes, two very, very powerful individuals that are going to be going up against each other on new ground. They're both making their debut. Both highly anticipated. It is the co-main event, but obviously there are a lot of eyes on this fight, given the fact that these 2 guys are so well known. I just think it's going to be a fascinating one. And I think, if Romero goes through to the next round against Nemkov, then, it's all about the flying knees and the explosivity. If Rumble Johnson goes through, Nemkov's got to deal with the same kind of power from both guys. Just as far as technicality goes, Rumble Johnson is, he's a very strong individual, but that does transfer to a certain level of stiffness when he's fighting. He's very right hand dominant. Oftentimes you'll see him post with his left hand and hit with his right, and he bridges the gap between each right hand by posting with his left hand to hold his opponent in place. You think back to the Nogueira fight where he just had him up against the fence, uppercutting him back to his feet. I mean, just one of those punches would have done it. The thing I like about Rumble Johnson that a lot of wrestlers find difficult to deal with is the fact that he stands quite square, and he's got this rock from one side to the next that he has when he's walking. But every time someone tries to level change when they're under attack, oftentimes they meet square hips, and that will make it challenging for Romero to take him down. I think a well-timed explosive takedown and Romero goes through him like butter, but to hit hard hips, when he's level changing out of panic because he's under attack, that's when Rumble Johnson's takedown offense looks very impressive. I think he's 77% takedown offense. I believe it was the last recorded stat of Rumble Johnson. And as I said, although we think of Romero as being a fantastic wrestler, he doesn't really use it. He even gets taken down sometimes because I think partly because he knows he can scramble back to his feet. But the explosiveness of Romero has always been the thing that's kind of got him out of trouble. And I mean, I think back to the Lyoto Machida fight, it was almost like he kind of played striking with him for a little while until he got bored, and then 3rd round just power double, took him down, smashed him with elbows, and the fight was over. And then the other fights that come to mind are his flying knees. Was it Clifford Starks in one of his early fights in the UFC, but the Chris Weidman one. I mean, that's a very powerful individual that could quite easily get that flying knee up to Rumble's face. So Rumble moving forward very square and being too aggressive could be very dangerous for him as well. There are good flying attacks from Romero, and I do think he's going to look healthier at 205. As I said, there's been a couple of times he's missed weight in recent years, and I think this move up, especially at this time in his life, might be the right thing to do. One other thing I will mention is the height and reach disadvantage for Yoel Romero. So Rumble Johnson's 6'2" with a 78-inch reach, and Yoel Romero is 5'10" with a 73-inch reach. Now he can make up some of that distance with explosivity, but then at the same time he's dealing with Rumble, who's probably got a pretty good 0 to 60 himself, and he's probably like a brick wall to run into. So that's going to be a challenge for Romero, but then part of that reach, I would suppose, is nullified by the fact that Rumble stands quite square. But nevertheless, longer arms are always useful. Okay, get into this tournament. It's getting really interesting. Enjoy these fights, and I'll see you next time.